CNY Fertility, Colorado. Welcome to, Terrific Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So everybody who's on Instagram, jump over the Facebook Live. Everything's going to be on Facebook Live. Hello, people. Jump over to Facebook Live. We're doing everything on Facebook Live today. We're going to be talking about Icsi, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So all of you folks that are on Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live. I'm going to be talking about Icsi, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, and then I'll do question and answers. So everybody who's on Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live. Amber Vance, good to see you. Kinda Osmond, nice to see you, my friend, my dear. Just Be Kimmy, jump over to Facebook Live. Samantha T. Facebook Live. Those folks who are on Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live. I'm going to be doing a talk tonight on intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Hello, Stacy. Hello, Rachel. Hello, Lindsay. Good to see you. Kind of comment on you. Hello, Cherry Bomb. She calls me money. Jump over to Facebook Live. We're going to be doing a talk over there. Make Baby McCree. I remember you. Jump over to Facebook Live. We're going to be doing a talk today on IVF, Icsi. Keeping up with me, jump over to Facebook Live, everybody. You could go to YouTube, Facebook Live. In about a half an hour, I'll be finished with the lecture, and then we can come back to Instagram. But everybody on Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live or to YouTube, either one. CNY Fertility, it's going to be all live for you guys, okay? So jump over to Facebook Live. And hi, Tia. Hi, guys. Good to see you. Let's see what we got going here. Yep, all you folks that are on Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live or YouTube Live. I'm doing pretty good, kind of Osborne. I sort of hurt my shoulder, so I've been kind of babying it a little bit in Aikido, but I love it. So here you go. Hi, Maria. Good to see you. Anybody who's on Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live. Or YouTube. I'm going to be doing a talk on intracytoplasmic sperm injection about Icsi. Ask questions at the end. If you are going to ask questions, kind of ask questions at the end. This way I can get through the lecture quickly and then answer everybody's question. Hello, I just had this done. Shakita, you betcha. Icsi, it's one of the number one ways we've treated male factor infertility. So since a lot of you folks are already live, everybody who's on Instagram, if you could keep telling people on Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live or YouTube Live, and you'll see me, and we'll be talking about Icsi. I put together a lecture. Usually it's about 20 minutes, and I'll be answering questions after. Oh, yeah, Amanda, I'll tell you, shoulder. Well, I actually feel stronger than I expected. I heard it on Saturday, but it hasn't slowed me down, put it that way. Maybe I won't do Aikido for a little bit of a while until I get a little bit, get it healed. Okay, all you folks who are on Instagram, XO, Kim Hong, Erica Lynn, Lindsay, Danson Spencer, jump over to Facebook Live. Jummy, over to Facebook Live or YouTube Live. I'm doing a lecture on intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Thank you, Lindsay. Lauren Coombs Wamsley, hello. It hasn't slowed me down. No, I don't know if anything is going to slow me down at this point, but I'm very grateful. I'm very, very grateful. Kamala Shamale, Dreaming of a Baby, jump over to Facebook Live and Instagram. We're doing, not Instagram, from Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live and YouTube. And we're going to be talking about intracytoplasmic sperm injection in 1 more minute. So counting down, we've got 9 people on Instagram. Jump over to Facebook Live and or YouTube Live. 8 people. Come on, everybody, jump over to Facebook Live, and I'll get started once we reach 5 people. 7 people, jump over to Facebook Live from where you are or to YouTube. We're going to be doing a lecture. This is Dr. Magarelli. Fertility care from everywhere. CNY Fertility, Colorado, bringing you the best of what we know and in the most cost-effective way. All you folks who are jumping onto Instagram, please jump over to Facebook Live. I'm going to stop yelling, and I'm going to start getting into the lecture. So let's start with intracytoplasmic sperm injection. What is it? If you look at this diagram here, you'll notice, if you can, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you here. Hang on a second. I hope it's big for you guys. Let's see. There you go. That's even bigger. You can see here that Icsi is where intracytoplasmic sperm injection. That's where we actually put the sperm directly inside the egg. So I'm doing this talk, folks, whoever's on Instagram, jump over to Facebook Live. So you can put the sperm directly inside the egg. That's called intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Now, in traditional IVF, you put the sperm in the dish and you hope that the sperm would penetrate the egg. Icsi changed all that. So how did it change all that? Let's take a look. Let's see, there we go. So here you see that in 1992, quite by accident, there was a system where they would put sperm under the zona pellucida of the egg. And how they did it was, what they would do is they would take the sperm and in one of two places, break the tail of the sperm so the sperm wouldn't swim inside the egg. The sperm would actually stay dormant, but the head of the sperm, where the nucleus is, would go inside the sperm, inside the egg. And this single broken sperm, they crossed their fingers. It was an accident, as I said. They were not meaning to put it into the egg because they felt like if you put a needle inside an egg, it would die. Well, lo and behold, the sperm fertilized the egg. This started back in 1992, right? So in about 1995, only about 20%, 15-20% of people were learning how to do this during IVF. Now, if you notice over time now, the number of cases in the United States that are doing Icsi is almost up to 80% of all IVF people are doing Icsi. But male factor of infertility hasn't changed. So either it just was one of those things that everybody felt was really, really good and had no problems, or it could be that there are problems associated with it, but since so many people were doing it, we didn't see it as well. So here's some fun facts about sperm. Sperm are approximately 0.5 millimeters in size, and a credit card thickness is 1 millimeter. So you can think of a sperm as about half the thickness of a credit card. The sperm has to travel to the egg, through the cervix, through the uterus, out the fallopian tube, and to the egg, and that distance is about 6 inches. So if you stack up 150 credit cards, it's about 6 inches. So sperm travel about 152 times their entire length to get to the target, actually twice that. Now, if you think a man walks about 2 feet per stride, and if you wanted him to do 150 strides, there would be 300 feet, which is equivalent to a little bit under the size of a football field. So the poor sperm has to travel equivalent the size of a football field to find the eggs. Now, in terms of sperm numbers, there's approximately 1,500 sperm produced for every heartbeat. There's 100 million sperm approximately ejaculated per ejaculate inside the vagina, in the pool. Of those 100 million, only 100,000 will get inside the uterus. All you folks that are on Instagram, I'm doing a lecture on Facebook Live and YouTube. Please jump over to Facebook Live. You won't see the lecture here. You'll hear it, but you won't see the lecture. But there's slides. So if you want to see the lecture, jump over to Facebook Live and YouTube, or you folks on Instagram. So now you have 100,000 sperm inside the uterus. About 4,000 will make it to the egg. And you need about 4,000 to break the shell of the egg to allow one sperm to get in. So this myth that it takes one sperm to fertilize an egg is only in the laboratory. In nature, a man has to ejaculate 100 million sperm per ejaculate, and that ain't that easy to do. So here you see in the uterus about 100,000 sperm, as I mentioned, get into the uterus. This is a representation of the fallopian tube, and you can see the sperm have to go down the fallopian tube, get to approximately near the oviduct where the egg is. But yeah, we get it down to about 20, and then you have to get at least that many to break the shell of the egg and then get one in. So this whole idea of it taking one sperm to make a baby And so men not needing to be tested for their fertility, or they don't have to be healthy, or they don't have to avoid alcohol, tobacco, and drugs is totally erroneous. There's a huge loss in sperm, and things like marijuana, things like smoking, all of these can damage the ability of the sperm to work and the numbers. Alcohol too. So what happens when the sperm gets to the egg? Well, here the cells, there's cells. This is called the zona pellucida, the clear zone around the oocyte or egg. And what you see is in the head of the sperm, you have the DNA, but then you have these little acid crystals, where basically they're enzymes that act like an acid to dissolve the zona pellucida to allow that sperm to get in. And once the nucleus of the sperm gets inside the egg, then it shuts off and creates a reaction. We think it's a zinc-based reaction, which locks all the other sperm from getting into the egg. So in Icsi, where we actually take one sperm at a time, it's almost impossible to get what's called polyspermia. But in IVF, where we put hundreds of thousands of sperm in a dish and massively overwhelm the egg, you can get what's called polyspermia. And before the invention of Icsi, that was a very common occurrence, that you would get what's called polyspermia. So we don't tend to see, well, actually, we don't see that in Icsi. And here's just showing you how the cells, the sperm cell interdigitates, gets to the zona pellucida. This is the granulosa cells, it has a cortical reaction, which dissolves, and first it fuses, and then has this cortical reaction, which allows the sperm nucleus to be shoved inside the egg. Whereas in Icsi, we actually put the whole sperm in there. But that's the reason why we break the tail, is we can't have it flagellating around inside the nucleus, because it could cause damage to the spindle fibers. All you folks on Instagram, this lecture, if you want to watch the lecture, is on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So here you see the process. We take an egg, we hold it with a holding pipette. We also take a sperm one at a time and pierce the zona pellucida, the cytoplasm dips in, and then we place the sperm inside, unlike conventional IVF. So that's the process. So in conventional IVF was initially developed for the treatment of female infertility, and Icsi was introduced in 1992 as a treatment for male factors. So now we have IVF for the female, we have Icsi for the male. In the past 30 years, it's doubled and quadrupled. It used to be just for male factor. In the United States, it doubled between 1996 and 2012, from 36% of the cases to 76% of the cases. The largest increase is where there is no male factor. This same trend is seen in Europe, which is really interesting because Europeans are very slow to adopt new technology. So to avoid failed fertilization, people use Icsi because we expected with traditional IVF, let me go back to this picture. In traditional IVF on the right here, we would expect only 50% of the eggs to fertilize. Whereas in Icsi, if we don't get 70% of the eggs to fertilize on average, then we think there's something going on. We've got to figure out why. But so that additional 20 or 30% more fertilization made it really advantageous for us to use Icsis. There also have been many studies, though, that have challenged whether or not Icsi is beneficial, and I'm going to go into that. And so in this particular paper, it said subjective sperm selection only on the basis of oocyte disruption and injury during sperm injection and injection of a foreign material into the ooplasm, which is the tail. There are other controversial issues or short and long-term risks of using Icsi at all. So there is some challenges as to whether this is better or not. So essentially, what are the main uses for, or the traditionally main use was male factor infertility and failed fertilization. But now we use Icsi for unexplained infertility, poor responders, advanced maternal age patients, PGT patients, split insemination patients, freeze-all IVF, and donor IVF. So we've now expanded the use of Icsi into many, 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 many modalities. All you folks who jumped on Instagram, please jump over to Facebook Live or YouTube if you want to see the lecture going on. So there was at one point, there was a belief that in case Icsi had a negative effect on folks, why don't we do a split Icsi protocol insemination where we do half of it with traditional IVF and half with Icsi. They felt that this might be a better way. They were afraid that Icsi may cause a problem, but at the same time, they were afraid that if we had failed fertilization, then there's no way for the patients to get pregnant because they had failed fertilization. So they came up with this split. They did study after study looking at this, and however, they could not really find any scientific evidence to support any beneficial effects on the clinical outcomes. And so our belief is that given that there's really no negatives, and in our case in particular at CNY Fertility, we don't charge extra for Icsi. We feel that Icsi for all is a standard that should be out there. So you will find that our fallback position in CNY is everybody gets Icsi included in their low fees. So what does the data support regarding whether or not Icsi helps poor ovarian reserve patients have more embryos, therefore more chance to make a baby? There are 2 papers favoring it. There's about 5 papers saying there's really no difference. And so in this particular side of the battle, the thought was maybe there's not an advantage. For advanced maternal age, there was about 1 paper that said it would help. There's about 10 papers that says it doesn't. So again, even though you have fewer eggs, maybe you really don't need Icsi. For the general non-factor infertility, there was 1 paper that said Icsi would do better, about 10 papers that said it wouldn't. Again, this particular author is showing you all the reasons why you don't need Icsi. However, the conclusion, as I said before, is there really isn't that much difference. There really isn't any harm. And if it costs a lot of money, yes, don't do it. But if it really is included at no charge, it's really hard to believe that this is not a good thing. Some folks believe that it was good for patients who had failed IUI, evenly in favor or not in favor of Icsi. Failed conventional, 2 papers said yes, 2 papers said no. Pre-implantation genetic, they said if it's to avoid DNA from the man, then basically that's not a good reason to do it. Frozen thawed, there's no studies that compared it. To improve egg quality, not been shown. So on that side of the story, it said that possibly Icsi was not beneficial. So you're hearing me say, we do it, we want to do it, 80% of folks in the world do it, but my job is to look at the literature, see what's out there, understand what's out there, and I can tell you that the main issues are either technical or cost, and for us at CNY Fertility, it's neither. All of our embryologists who are allowed to do Icsi are trained and have the technical competence to do it, and we include it at no cost. There have been many studies that have asked the question whether or not there are impacts of doing the process of Icsi on the babies themselves, like perinatal outcomes. Are there problems with congenital malformations, developmental malformations, the medical health? And the answer is, honestly, there's no clear message that there's any difference between doing traditional IVF and Icsi regarding that. Now, this is it's not a randomized control study, but it was the Jovic of a very large clinic in Europe that looked at all of their experience in about 3,500 IVF cycles. And what they found is that in this first bar here, these are just traditional IVF, all the cases of IVF that were done. These were split out of just IVF alone or Icsi and IVF. And what they found for women less than 35, they had a slight but significant increase in live birth. For women between 35 and 39, a more significant increase in live births, something like 50 versus 55%, which is a lot. In women 40 to 44, again, a statistically significant increase. Over 45, of course, so few patients, no difference. And if you take all of the ages together in their study, one clinic looking at over 3,500 cycles, they found a statistically significant increase. in live births, which is really the name of the game. And I wanted to make sure we weren't missing, when I was doing this review, we weren't missing things about safety and efficacy. So the conclusion that I came in reviewing, if we understand human infertility, particularly that which we've learned for the past 44 years, he basically says that most cases of human infertility are poorly explained. So our job in doing technology is to eliminate any chance for mishaps or any chance for a lack of efficacy. So when you do, if you can get 20% more embryos made by adding Icsi, that may be advantageous. In his clinic, what they do is they do a variety of tests on the male, on the female, which we do. We don't do post-coital testing. He recommended that. In a clinical review, we do things like laparoscopic correction of the female pelvic organs is something you should look at. In the last 3 years, they've offered no frills IVF. Well, we live with a low-cost IVF Icsi option model. So what they have found is by offering this straight to Icsi model, they actually save significant amounts of money. And this is what CNY has been doing for years. The current struggles of the World Health Organization's advisory committee to even define male factor and provide a clear level of guidance, it's just not there. So yes, you're going to see controversy as to whether you should do IVF or not, because they're essentially saying we don't know exactly the cause, but if Icsi can get around many of these causes, and there is really, as I say on the last point here, there should be no fear that Icsi procedure itself causes any fetal abnormalities, because the trusted experience of the Icsi pioneers negates this concern. In other words, we've got 44 years of experience which truly say that Icsi, for Icsi is actually less than that, it's about 30 years, saying essentially, we get very good outcomes. We do not see, we have a concern about the potential in very small subsamples that we may find an association with Icsi with some kind of long-term effect, but we're not seeing it. And in many, many reasonably sized studies, we don't see that at all. So at CNY, Icsi is included in all cycles, and there's no need to opt in. However, if you are going to opt out of the process, you have to tell us in the front. In other words, you have to tell us you do not want to do Icsi, rather than tell us you do want to do it since it's included. If there is no semen analysis on record, then it's strongly advised to do Icsi, especially for our out-of-town folks, because we don't want to be surprised when we didn't get any fertilization. That's one of the biggest tragedies in the old days when we didn't have Icsi, is we put the sperm and the egg together, and the next day there would be no fertilization, and everybody would panic. So doing Icsi, in my mind, provides a lot of comfort. Since we don't charge extra for it, I think it's a cost-effective tool. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Many of you, as you know, do Icsi. Icsi is not a procedure to make twins. Icsi is not a procedure to pick boys or girls. It's none of that. Icsi is a procedure mainly to create fertilization where we may not have gotten it before. The advantages of Icsi is that you can get statistically more embryos made. With more embryos, you find more normal embryos. More normal embryos, of course, will give you more choice, and more choice gives you a better chance for a baby. Some disadvantages, there have been some suggestions by some that there may be that there's something going on with the baby, but here is the first point of this is that perinatal outcomes, meaning live births, no differences in perinatal outcomes. Congenital malformations, no difference in congenital malformations. Developmental outcomes, no difference in physical, psychological, cognitive outcomes on the basis of sperm source. Medical health, slightly increased risk of autism in Icsi children, although the association should be interpreted with caution given the small absolute risk of autism. What that means is if you have 1 in a million chance of autism in a person, and if you do Icsi in a population, if you do Icsi now it's 2 in a million, Well, that is 100% bigger increase, but it's only going from 1 in a million to 2 in a million. But that may mean another 100,000 or 200,000 babies are born just fine. So again, it doesn't seem like there's any long-term effects. Now, if your clinic charges you 3,000 or 5,000 or any of thousands of dollars to do Icsi, which we used to in the past, not we CNY, but in the past at some institutions, then yeah, you may have to think about it from a cost benefit standpoint. But at CNY, there's no additional cost. You actually have to tell us not to do it. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I'm going to now shift back to question and answers, but I thank you for listening. Now, all of these are recorded. All of these are recorded, so you can go and read about it. And if you have a friend who hasn't seen this, they can go to the recordings. Okay, all righty. Well, everybody, we're all here. So back on Instagram, back on YouTube, back on Facebook. Let's see, Shakita, I just had this procedure done and transferred this Monday, and I have APS on 40 milligrams of that. This is my first one. What should I expect growing process? And okay, what should I expect growing process? Shakita, give me a better question. I don't understand that one. I have one tube with the hydrosalpinx, but I have no issue getting pregnant. Can I do IVF? Yes, but Steph 2823, clip that tube because that fluid will pour back in. Amanda, you're so welcome. I love giving these lectures. I know you probably just want to ask questions, but I think if you have a whole library of this information and you can share with your friends, I hope it helps. Amber, you're so welcome. Yes, Amber, please, if I'm in the hallway, you scream at me, and if you're in there for your retrieval. Growing process, you should see the tic-tac sac tic-tac sac at 7 weeks. Yes, so that's what you're going to see. Is you're going to get if you're talking about a transfer, you'll get your pregnancy test. We hope it doubles every 2 days. Once it reaches 1,000, we can see it by ultrasound. It's a little circle or tic-tac. By 7 weeks, that tic-tac will have a little fetal pulse, so we can tell. And by 8 weeks, we should see a heartbeat. Oh, Stacy, can't wait to go to Colorado. I live here. I'm happy about it here. Beta was 54 today. This is 12 days post-transfer for 5-day embryo. Kind of nervous from these numbers. Well, should I be worried? Antonetta, no, you should be grateful. Be grateful. Good number. Next one is going to be over 100 in 2 days. Okay, Holly, I came to Colorado for my transfer, 212, and my beta today was, oh my God. Everybody congratulate Holly Bordelon for a successful pregnancy. Thank you for sharing that with us. Why Icsi pronounced X? Why is Icsi pronounced Icsi? Heard it many times from multiple doctors. Well, intracytoplasmic sperm injection is hard to say, so Icsi, Icsi. I don't know. Icsi. I don't know. I don't understand why they call it Icsi. Dr. Mag, we had one failed ovulation, OE cycle. What are my chances with DE age 34? Donor embryo, own egg, and donor egg. Well, a donor egg, remember, your success is based on the age of the egg. So if it's a less than 35-year-old egg, then your chances are around 30 to 40%. If it's an over 40, I think you're 45, it's less than 1%. Gosh, I forgot water today. Oh, well. Kim, Dr. Mag, I need your guidance. I spent hours on the phone with CNY today and got 3 different answers. Of course, you ask 3 people, you get 3 answers. We want to start medication cycle next month, but just to do a saline sono in addition to an HSD I have already had. Nah, don't do it. Can I do the same cycle as my medicated retrieval cycle? We should not be transferring the same cycle. Can I get my saline sono same day? Okay, Kim, ask me a basic question because I there's too many words there. Mara said, I'm 41, just had my 3rd failed transfer for 3-day fresh. Do you recommend to try another round right away? Fresh day 3 fresh transfer. Yes, but have a consult. Make sure you're doing acupuncture, serovital, growth hormone, keto diet. Make sure you've been ruled out for endometriosis, which is surgical. You could do an ER. Well, an ER right now, I wouldn't recommend that with a day 3. Back to Mag. Is progesterone and oil the progesterone injections? Yes, Sarah. Do you recommend ovarian rejuvenation? No, I don't recommend it, but we're willing to do it. The reason I don't recommend it, as anyone knows on this podcast here, I use the science, and there's not a lot of science about ovarian rejuvenation yet. Some are encouraging and some are not so encouraging. So I do it, happy to do it, happy to help, but I don't say that I recommend it. What I recommend is growth hormone injections, serovital acupuncture. I do recommend nutraceuticals, low carb eating. These have been shown to be helpful. Androgens have also been shown to be helpful. Evelyn, my TSH is slightly elevated. Is that too much? What do you recommend? You would like, Evelyn, to have your TSH around 2. That's the data. So see if they'll start you on some NP thyroid or levothyroxine. Mary said, my pleasure. Is low estrogen during stimulation meds indicating a low count? I had 9 followed stim day 8, but estrogen was 178. I'm not doing letrozole. Yeah, it is an indication of lower numbers of eggs. All right, Kim, sorry. Can I get my saline sono the same cycle as a medication retrieval cycle? Yes. 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 I like a saline sono. I actually like Kim, if you can, get yourself a hysteroscopy, and you can do that at the same time as a retrieval in our clinic. What is a normal beta for people with antiphospholipid syndrome? There's no such thing as a normal beta number. That has nothing to do with pregnancy. So those are not related. I'm missing. Okay. I have embryos frozen, done with retrievals. How long before transferring an embryo do you recommend to begin acupuncture? The moment you stop the retrieval, start your acupuncture. Actually, you should be starting your acupuncture during the retrieval. Start it as soon as possible and ask for the Credenda Magarelli acupuncture protocol. And you're going to go, if you don't have one near you, or if you want to find an acupuncturist near you, go to the aborm.org. Stacy, Laura Coombs Wamsley, my doctor never tested any blood work. I feel it is why we lost our baby at 8 weeks. DC tomorrow. Tubes were to come out January. I'm 43 and I'm going to make an appointment with Dr. Maximum to fly out to Denver. Colorado Springs, Stacy. I'm in Colorado Springs. Do you see people from Canada? Yes. My son is from Canada. My daughter's from Canada. My grandkids are from Canada. Or do you mean patients? Absolutely. Happy to see them. Happy to see them. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to make an appointment to Dr. Vaccine to fly out there, make soon to fly out to Denver. Progesterone oral that makes me bleed immediately. Ugh, okay. I think you're talking to each other. What is a normal good AMH, FSH, AFC for a 37-year-old? Is there an average number? There is, but Azita, you would like it around between 2.5 and 3 for the AMH. You want it less than 10. For your FSH, 7 is even more, is better. AFCs I don't do. All right, we're jumping back on Instagram. Hi, folks. This is Dr. Magarelli, CNY Fertility, Colorado. Rocking to you from Colorado Springs. It's snowing. We're supposed to have 3 days of snow, but it's really warm. It's kind of really nice. Let's see. Do they do birth control still for all cycles in Colorado? No, we don't. We do what's needed for the patients. If they need a birth control pill, we do it. If they need estrogen, we do it. If they can somehow, lucky for them, fall into a natural cycle, we do it. Alicia, my TSH was 1.3 before egg retrieval. Now doing monitoring for FET, and it is 3.9 on Synthroid now. We'll be fine to transfer next week. When did you start your Synthroid? We'd like to see you on the medication for about 6 weeks to get a steady state. What is your take on Duostem? My last lecture, I did a whole lecture on Duostem. If you have cancer or if you have low ovarian reserve, I think it's a great treatment. Is IVF the best option when both tubes are blocked, Mrs. Villaverde? Yes, absolutely. Sagittarius 38, hello. Sirimi, hello. Stars 77, hello. Alicia, last week. Nope, I would hold off on your transfer until your TSH is below 2. Let's see. My lining is 14 on cycle day 11. Transfer is Monday. Is my lining too thick? Absolutely not. Julie, I had 4 failed frozen embryo transfers. Do you think a fresh transfer might be more beneficial? I'm 33 years old. Are you doing blastocysts, Jewel Mo? Are you doing, these are, I hope they're blastocysts. And if they are, I would do an endometrial receptivity test. And before you even put another embryo in, if these are untested embryos and you have a whole bunch of embryos left, I would do PGTA on them. Can I have my sister do a retrieval to donate eggs for me? Absolutely. Absolutely, Jen's IVF journey. Rosin, I'm 42 years old today. My follicle size is. Dr. hadn't decided I should trigger today with HCG. Is this the right decision or too early? Does it worth going for egg retrieval for one follicle since one is a cyst? I think, Rosin, you have a lot more history than what you're showing me here. I think that you've done this many times before, or I don't think this is your first time, but I think we talked about low ovarian reserve in the past. Marisette, silly question. I just want my husband to hear your answer. Does marijuana affect sperm quality? Of course, yes. If yes, how long in advance should my husband stop smoking to get stronger sperm? About 70 to 90 days, Marisette. Okay. So, Rosin, the issue is you have 2 dominant follicles, and if that's all you have, then that's all you have. The rest are not going to grow fast enough, or you lose the rest of them. Happy birthday, Rosin. I didn't know it was your birthday. Well, happy birthday. Amanda, with low ovarian reserve, if you have a leading follicle, would you recommend retrieving those and then doing dual stim for the rest, or stim longer to see if the others catch up? Impossible to say, Amanda. You actually have to see the distributions. When do you recommend Zymote? I don't. Azita, how many eggs would typical fertilize with Icsi? If I have 3 eggs, for example, I'm 37. Well, 70%, so 2 out of 3. So if you get a 70% fertilization rate, which I think is regardless of age, then that means 7 out of 10 eggs should fertilize. Usually it's 90% with Icsi. My point of my slides today on Icsi was the fact that Icsi will increase the numbers of eggs. If it has no charge, as in our place we don't have an additional charge for it, then it really is a cost-effective way to do it. Okay. All right, Cowgirl. How about Instagram? Any questions over there? Nethel Stylist, Journey on board, please. This is Dr. Magarilli. What you want to do is ask. Everybody should ask questions. Everybody ask questions. Any kind of questions. Anything you're interested in. Is spotting after beta normal? Yes, we see that. But make sure you're hydrated. After having a miscarriage, I have a transfer in May. Should I advocate for a different protocol? The protocol is not the reason you miscarried, but you should have a doctor review it. What does it mean when your hormone levels are favorable, but the follicle count is low? Is there any way to increase antral follicle counts? No, it's genetically determined by your mother's chromosome, how many eggs you have. Why sometimes we trigger with Lupron and sometimes only with HCG 10,000? Rosin, I think you're on a mini IVF protocol, and in the mini IVF protocol, we use 10,000 HCG as insurance for this person, and also to kind of help the system. What is the best retrieval protocol for endometriosis? Has nothing to do with endometriosis or protocols. First retrieval baseline FSH was 5, going back to back. Second cycle baseline FSH jumped to 15. What can I do to help lower it back down? You cannot, and it's not even representative. I'm going to be talking to the team about not even getting those FSHs because they're not very helpful. How long is too long after your phone consult? How long is too long? It should be 2 weeks after your first initial consultation. You should get a financial consult call. If not, you call them. Okay. Is Omnitrope beneficial for frozen embryo transfer? Yes, I'm using it in those patients, Jennifer and Johnny Anderson, in those patients who failed transfers, because growth hormone is for every cell in the body, brain, muscle, bones, eyeballs, eggs, uterus, sperm, you name it. So, yep, I think it's helpful. Do you recommend genetic testing? If so, what will it cause issues with embryos? Oh, will it cause issues with embryos? Is there a risk when you do PGT testing on an embryo that the embryo may perish? Yes. It's very small. I think it's less than 5%. Sarah, I have my consult at the end of March. I did my last IVF cycle in March of 2021. Do you recommend redoing my testing? Yes. How long do you suggest priming with estrogen prometrium for even follicle growth? Well, at least 30 days. So the month before. Azita, what do you recommend for someone like me to do an egg retrieval? I have 2 kids and looking to just make embryos. Have 2 kids previously pregnant naturally. Cannot be pregnant, but can get pregnant. Well, I don't know what that says. History of hemorrhaging and pulmonary embolism with PE. Doctors here recommend letrozole only hormones. Yeah, I think that's very good, Azita. If you had a pulmonary embolism, you want to keep a very low estrogen, and that's okay to get eggs. But make sure you talk to a high-risk obstetrician gynecologist about a high-risk one about your risk for getting pregnant. Will Omnitrope work on someone that carries a lot of extra fat on their stomach? Of course. Stacy, do you help women who get pregnant but have trouble carrying between? Yes, absolutely. What is the number for your office? I live in Vegas. It's that same 800 number. All you folks west of the Mississippi tend to come to Colorado. People east of the Mississippi tend to go to New York. But we help everybody everywhere. So call that 800 number. Tell them you want an appointment if you can with Dr. Magarelli, because you heard me on Facebook Live. What else can you do after 4 failed frozen embryo transfers? I have 2 blasts left and did the ERA already. Acupuncture, serovital growth hormone. What do I think of the Lupron flare protocol? I think it's old. I think it's historic. Don't think it's any better than a well-timed other protocol, antagonist protocol. But again, some people like it. Will you show us one day exactly how inflammation is detrimental to your fertility? I would like to learn about the process. Yeah, thank you. I will. Inflammation. Yeah, I really want to do that lecture and infertility. I really, really like that idea. Is testosterone good for a man to take if he has low motility? No, it causes sterility. So if you men are out there taking testosterone, you are eliminating your sperm. Sometimes it goes to 0, and it can take up to 3 to 6 months to come back if you stop your testosterone. So do not take testosterone if you are trying to make a baby. It's only for erections, and erections don't make babies. They help, but they don't make babies. I'm sorry, I should have worded that better. We had a phone consult in 2019. I had some health issues that caused delays. We are ready to begin now. Will I need another phone consult? Yes. Lauren, yes. Immediately call up, say you are a patient and you want an appointment as soon as possible, and you're willing to take, what do they call that, a standby wait list? Definitely it's worthwhile to be on a standby wait list. Everybody who's joined, Silkweb, the Sydney, Sarcastic, Casey Watson, ask questions. Everybody individually ask questions. That's why this is all about here. I'm Dr. Magarelli, CNY Fertility Colorado, fertility care from everywhere. What helps with low motility in men? Clomid may help. Acupuncture may help. Gonadotropins like FSH. Why keto? Well, keto is really, what I mean by keto is low carbohydrate, which is low inflammatory diet. That's why the woman asked about inflammation, and reductions in insulin resistance, which are associated with infertility. Love Life 830. I have an appointment this week and I completed all my labs. Is it realistic to expect start during March? Not at all, Love Life 830. You have 2 weeks. Yes, letrozole will work also, Mrs. Miller. You have so the Love Life 830. 2 weeks, you'll get a financial consult. Then you'll talk to the global travel if you're from far away. Then you'll get your testing done. So you can figure 6 to 8 weeks. What are my thoughts on Mosaic embryo transfer? Yes, do them. I had my egg retrieval yesterday and 2 eggs fertilized. Do you think 2 is enough for a fresh transfer at 40 years old? Well, if you're doing a fresh transfer, yes, put them in and then jump on another cycle. What tests do you recommend getting done before a consult, Sarah? They're in our family building guide, which is in cnyfertility.com, resource page, family building guide. Everyone should read it. It's brand new. We updated it. There's millions of bits of information on our resource page. If ovulation is the only issue causing infertility, what's the best treatment? 44 is IVF. I have a large fibroid in my uterus. Would you recommend I get it removed before I do IVF with donor eggs? I am 42, by the way. If I get it removed, how long after? So it's 4 to 6 weeks after surgery. Then you can start thinking about a transfer. If the fibroid is inside the uterus, which means it's interfering with your ability to implant, then yes, fix it. If it's not, leave it alone. What size do you think follicles should be to trigger? Anything above 17, 18, or 19 mean diameter? I'm a kind of an 18, 19, 20 guy myself. Other people are a 16, 17, 18 guy. Just depends on who's the chef in the kitchen that day. Will you please consider talking about options of transfer protocols to us? Yes, Rosin, I've done a huge discussion of protocols. If you look at the CNY fertility library, huge numbers of I did on protocols. But yes, I'll add an update to protocols. Okay. Regarding keto, I know my kills memo the baby, but I prefer chicken. Yes, remember, it's a marketing thing, the baby diet. It sounds nice. It's cutesy. It rhymes with Kills keto. But what Dr. Kills is saying is use ketones for food, not carbohydrates. That's what he's saying. It's a marketing way of saying the same thing. Chicken, pork, cheese, whey powder, tofu. It's high fat, moderate protein, low carbs. All right. So excited for my consult tomorrow. Good. Is it possible for follicles to get too big and lose the egg? Absolutely, my dear. Absolutely. It is possible. Do the trigger medications help the follicles get any bigger in the last 36 hours? Yes and yes. Yes and yes. Yes, it does. Okay. All righty. Sometimes my computer says things to me. Today I asked about the HCG wash to my nurse. She said because I'm on protocol 1, I shouldn't need it. Male factor, do you agree? If you're on protocol, that's not that you don't need anything. You need a sperm, an egg, and a uterus. So let's get that straight. And all these other things are things that might help. If you've never done, if it's your first time flying, you're probably going to sit in the economy and just enjoy the heck out of it. Then after you fly economy for 10 years, now you want to go to business class, and then you want to go to first class if you can afford it. All of these methods are going to get you to a baby, just like the plane is going to arrive at the same time for the economy passengers, for the business class passengers, and for the first class. They all arrive at the same time. So don't over-medicate yourself. Don't over-add stuff unless you need it. Can you please share your email? I'd like to ask some questions. No. Sagittarius, 2 failed transfers, 1 fresh day 3, and 1 3-day FET. Did acupuncture on prednisone and plaquenil protocol. What can I do differently? I'm 42. Are these genetically tested embryos? On Prashant, just call for a consult. That's what you want to do. Anyone who wants to ask questions, that's what the physician model we have is. You call up, you make an appointment to talk with your doctor about your questions. This is the normal process, and I strongly recommend you do that through the portal because it's all documented. Is IVF ultimately a numbers game? It is a numbers game and a genetics game. My husband can't make the trip. Is it possible to bring his specimen with you? Love life. Well, you can get it frozen at a sperm bank and they can ship it. In what circumstances would you not recommend genetic testing on embryos? In all circumstances, the only times you should get it is if you have a genetic disease, if you failed conventional IVF, or you're between the ages of 35 and 39, that's where it seems to help a little bit. But if you don't have those things, you don't necessarily need it. What are your thoughts on low dose protocol if higher dose is not yielding many eggs? I think it's a great way to save money, Operation Baby Human. How long is the wait between egg retrieval and open myomectomy? You could do it the very next month. And Azita, thank you for answering. Okay. Too much, my dear. Too big a question. Can you transfer a donor egg and a own egg at once? I wouldn't. Tiny. Can you explain why PGT seems to help the most for ages 35? Not at all. That's an observation, not a science. It's just basically that is what we have found. By the way, that's also what we have found, Amanda, for acupuncture seems to help those patients the most. For growth hormone seems to help those patients. There's something that goes on in a woman between the ages of 35 and 40. After 40, it's very, very hard for anything to happen. Before 35, easy. So that's the gray zone. What's my opinion on intralipid PRP and HCG wash 24 hours before the transfer? Well, intralipids, inflammation, natural killer cells, PRP, growth hormones, and HCG wash, they're just adjuncts. And if you've never done anything else, then don't use them. How long to wait for another cycle after duostim? The very next month. Do you recommend abstaining from sex days before the frozen embryo transfer? No, no. Does grade matter with euploid embryos? No, Maggie. Sintif, I have recurrent miscarriages in my last natural pregnancy. The baby was normal. Should I get genetic testing because I'm 40? You're getting PGT testing of the embryos, not genetic testing on you. And that's to determine if you have any normal embryos, because at age 40, there's only about a 10% chance you'll find a normal embryos. Can you do IVF cycle with an endometrioma cyst? Only have one ovary, lost my left ovary. Well, it's very hard, Erica Ann, and you may or may not get eggs. There isn't an acupuncturist in my area from the Aborn sub. What other recommendations do you have? You contact Diane Credenda at East Winds Acupuncture to help you or to give you the protocol, the Credenda Magarelli Acupuncture Protocol. So we share it with everybody. So contact East Winds Acupuncture and go from there. Do you recommend? Okay, I'm in a gray zone, but I am doing acupuncture and love it. Absolutely. How many days to abstain before egg retrieval? From sex, I'm assuming? None. How many days to abstain from sex before egg retrieval? I'd say none. Don't do it the day of, but the day before is fine. But be careful. It might hurt. In other words, some people, because the ovaries are big. So if it hurts, don't do it. Do you recommend a day 3 or day 5 transfer? Yes, both of them. It depends on the patient and what their needs are. Are all the IVF medication standards, or are they altered depending on blood work results? Yes, they're altered. Do medications expire? Of course. Usually 2 years after you buy them. Any carnivore diet works. I eat a lot of, yes, agreed. I have surgery next week with Dr. Condra. Please say hi to remove my tubes. What is the next in this IVF journey is heal and then get stimulated and get eggs out. Or you may have already done that. I don't know. Okay, we're winding down. Boy, time flies when you're having fun. So next week is Q&A, question and answers. I'm going to be pulling in some acupuncturists to come live with me. I'm going to pull in my new nurse practitioner to introduce herself, Brandis Montez. I want to tell you the nurses, why do we say 3? Well, okay, Razin, if you have male factor, yes, you abstain 3 to 5 days so the male can produce enough sperm. You have to ask that question in the beginning. I can't guess that. So anyway, next week will be questions and answers. I'm going to start looking about doing something on inflammation. I have done lots of things on protocols. Are there acupuncturists in Los Angeles? I recommend bunches. Just go to the Aborn website. Fantastic people there. Well, you're so welcome, Lauren. Thank you all for listening in to this crazy guy on Tuesdays. I really enjoy this. I look forward to it. It's part of my Tuesday ritual. I really appreciate the questions. Please share the word if you like what we're doing. Please call us and tell us if you don't like what we're doing so we can do it better. Oh, Amanda, you're going to be there tomorrow for monitoring. If I see you, I'll say hi. Well, tell them to come call me. Oh, anyway, you guys, thank you so much. Happy Tuesday. Great night. Pregnant thoughts. We really care about you guys, and we wish you the best. Send kisses. Always send kisses, kisses, kisses. I love those. And thank you. I will see you all next week. And I appreciate you being on. Thank you. Okay. Let's start the kissing part. Thank you. Bye, everybody.